Before we get into the video, I just wanted to make a bit of an announcement. So I am really proud to announce that I am going to be joining the second series of Alan Titchmarsh's Gardening Club. I was on the show last season, I'm back this season, and I've got a little bit more of an expanded role. So you're going to see me out across the Northwest, looking at some urban community gardens and meet some of the communities who are working together to make their towns or cities a little bit greener. The show starts on the 10th of March in 2025, and I'll be sure to keep you updated and let you know which episodes I will appear in. Anyway, let's get into the video. If you're new here, my balcony garden is located in Manchester city centre. I am 18 floors up, and over the years I've had to overcome several challenges to get it going. Over the past 2 months or so, I've had a huge influx in subscribers, and you probably don't know anything about me, so I thought I'd just share a little bit so you kind of get to know me and understand where I came from to where I am now. I started this channel around about 3 years or so ago. I was in furlough, and at the time there was nothing available on social media to teach me how to use my balcony as a garden. And so what I decided to do was share some of my progress on this garden. I didn't think that anyone would care, and then a couple of years later I had designed a show garden at the Chelsea Flower Show. I've since gone on from being a general manager in hospitality to now being a garden designer full-time, and I've designed several show gardens at different RHS shows. I have my own clients now, and just last year I applied for a research grant which allowed me to go and study how to make our towns and cities a little bit greener. And I travelled to Milan, Barcelona, China, Hong Kong and Singapore, studying how to make our towns and cities greener, with the hopes that I could come back to the UK and implement some of my findings so that everybody has access to this green space. So my journey has been absolutely incredible, from putting out that first loop in on my YouTube channel to where I am today. So I guess the first thing I didn't know before I started gardening was the fact that it could be the start of a brand new career. And I think you get to a certain age where you think, is this what my life has become? And you don't necessarily know that there are different options out there for you. And so I think finding gardening was probably the best thing for me, because working full-time in hospitality, working late nights, my whole life is completely changed, and my outlook is really different. So if gardening is something that you enjoy, really huge possibilities out there where perhaps maybe you could find a brand new career path as well. So that's something to bear in mind. Something I've been really open and honest about from essentially the very beginning of this channel is how I found that gardening has positively impacted my mental health. There's something so comforting coming out and seeing how your garden is doing, or planting some new seedlings and seeing those first few shoots come up. I think it's given me my own little sanctuary, but also just, I don't know, somewhere that I feel safe, that I can kind of disconnect from the world a little bit when I need to. And that got me thinking, well, why do we not have more green spaces in the city? What if more people knew that they could have access to something like this, that they could do it themselves, and it doesn't have to be expensive? That has been like my main driving force. That's why I created the show garden at Chelsea. Is why I work so much with local communities, because I just think that we need more of this kind of green space in our cities. And that was one of the reasons why I was really careful with my topics to go out on my research trip, to go and find out how other cities are incorporating green spaces and connecting people to nature, so that hopefully back in the UK we can see a bit more of that. One of my favorite things about my garden is my pond, my fish pond. I actually have, I think, something like three ponds. I have 3 ponds in total on the garden at the moment, and I love the sound of running water. The pump is not on at the moment, but secondly, what I didn't know at the time was how important it was having a water source on the garden to attract in pollinators and keep the pollinators and wildlife in this garden. So I have lots of insects and creepy corals that visit the garden. Having that water source, creating a food source, and then also creating habitats and shelter means that actually this garden is its own unique ecosystem. So that is something that I would really champion you. If you've got a balcony, if you've got a patio or courtyard, think about a way that you can have something like this to attract that wildlife into your garden. And of course, if that idea really freaks you out and you don't know what to do or how to go about building one, I've got lots of videos on my channel explaining how to make them, and I also have them for sale on my website. This one needs a bit of love, but this is one of my containers ponds. This is called the Stratus Pond, and you can see that the marsh marigolds have come back to life. The grass is doing fine. The lily is still too cold, but the lily will be bouncing back soon. And so it's super, super simple. Now, it does need a bit of a tidy up. I'm going to do a container pond tidy up video for you guys. So I'll show you how to refresh your container ponds if you do have one already. One thing I didn't appreciate when I first started to garden on this balcony was how destructive the wind can be. As you can see, it's a glass railing, and then we've got the roof up there. And so the wind barrels in and blows everything down the garden, and that can have a really detrimental effect to my planting. So over the years, I've tried so hard to grow things like sunflowers that grow really tall, plants with big leaves, and in actual fact, all that happens is I run into failure. And I went through a whole period of thinking that I was a rubbish gardener, but it wasn't that I was rubbish, it's just I was growing the wrong plants in the wrong place. So what I wish I knew back then was to stop wasting my time trying to grow things that just simply wouldn't work and focus on what will work. When I first started gardening, I was under the impression that I just wanted to grow for self-sufficiency, so I only grew veg and fruit. But then over time I realized that you need to incorporate some floral elements in if you want to increase your yield. So all of that sounds really fancy, but ultimately what it means is if you grow some flowers in between your food, then that invites pollinators in. And when you get those pollinators into your garden, it means that more of your fruit and veg will be pollinated. So it increases the amount of fruit and veg that you get on the garden. So if you have this mindset of just veg, but just incorporate some flowers in between, call it companion planting, just to ensure that you get some really helpful insects into your garden to help you have more food. I also learned that seed starting isn't for everyone. Like, I can be okay starting seeds, but sometimes my work keeps me away for a few days, and sometimes those seedlings can struggle. So I've learned to try and get that balance between seed sowing, but also picking up one or two things from the nursery. So OGs to the channel, you will know that quite often I go on shopping, well, I don't think that they're shopping sprees. I go on nursery visits where I just innocently go to the nursery for one or two items, and then somehow 500 things magically fall into the basket. But sometimes it's okay to go to a nursery and pick up one or two things. And this year I'm going to make sure to show you what you can grow from seed, but also what to get from the store if you need to. I used to think that gardening was super expensive, but there are so many different ways that you can cut costs, whether that is growing from seeds, taking cuttings, collecting seeds, seed swaps where you can go and share seeds, whether it is using what I call ratchet containers. So that means rather than going and buying expensive containers, finding new ways to repurpose old containers or old tubs and turning them into planters. I have an opinion that gardening really shouldn't be expensive. It should be as accessible as possible. I think one of my biggest tips would be to garden for yourself. Don't garden for Instagram, if that makes sense. So if your garden doesn't look picture perfect with the most expensive containers because you can't afford it, who cares? You're growing for you, not for anybody else. I also think it's really important to not compare your own space to somebody else's online. So for someone on Instagram or YouTube, it's their job to create these spaces. That's their job, is to make content. If you've got your own life, you've got your own job, there's no point in trying to compare what someone else has got if you don't have the time to do that. Just focus on you and what it is that you're doing. Once I changed my mindset about that, I can come in here, show you when my garden looks a mess, and I don't feel any form of pressure at all to try and live up to these perfect expectations. In fact, I think it's really funny that you can look at my garden and it's a hot mess, because I just think it's more relatable that way. And then I don't have this pressure of trying to be perfect. It's freeing in a way. But I think one of the most important things that I have learned over the past few years or so is gardening is essentially trial and error. What will work will work. You might try one plant in one space and it doesn't work. Move it down a meter and it works. And that's life. So many times plants don't do well and then people instantly think that they're rubbish. No, it's just that particular plant didn't work. Try again or try something new. So yeah, I kind of wanted to leave it there and leave it with a bit of positivity. If there's anything that you wish you knew a few years ago before you started gardening, let us know in the comments below. And hopefully I will see you all again very soon. Bye! I hope that you guys have enjoyed getting to know me, and I hope that this has been useful for you, especially at the start of the growing season. Hopefully I will see you all again very soon. Bye!